Welcome to Railfans. I'm Shane Sege. Join us as we discover Ottawa's O train, Toronto's subway, and Montreal's metro system together. I'm Shane Sege. Joining me today is Troy Charter, Director of Transit Operations at OC Transpo. Thank you for joining me today.
No problem. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So I'd just like to go over the incident that took place Sunday, August 8th, in which a train had one of its axles derail outside of Tunney's Pasture. I'd just like to talk about, what took place and what came afterwards. So let's start at the beginning. So what exactly happened August 8th in the afternoon?
On that day, on the Sunday, we were running our service, a normal 11 train service that day. And we noticed the operator reported some issues with one of his cars. So we had parked that train at Tunney's Pasture station for a period of time, allowed a technician to come and take a look at it. It was believed at the time to be what we refer to as a stuck brake. Operator tended to it, was able to release that brake. And we left that train parked there for a couple hours. We said, let's just reduce it at the end of the night. When we get through our, I know it's a Sunday and we're dealing with COVID, but during our rush time, we'll get it off later on in the evening. So around 8 o'clock, the decision was made to take the train offline and return it to the maintenance and storage facility. And so the train was departing Tunney's Pasture station, crossed over from track 1 to track 2, going eastbound at that point. And then about a couple hundred feet outside the station, so after it had crossed the crossover, the last axle on the lead train had derailed, had come off the tracks. So at the time, the operator didn't know that. They started to experience a bumpy ride, stopped the train. Technician was on board because the technician was riding the train back to the MSF. They did a little bit of troubleshooting, thought, let's maybe see if we can get it back to Tunney's Pasture station because we're only a couple hundred feet away. Don't want to impact service for the rest of the night. They couldn't move it. And that's when, they got out, took a look, found that the train had derailed. And then later on in the evening, when we were looking at re-railing the train, after service had ended, that's when it was found that there was a bigger problem with that one axle, that one wheel. And then that's at the point where we had to start making decisions about service, getting that train off, and doing a detailed investigation into what actually happened.
So just to clarify about the axles, each train is typically operated as two coupled trains. Each car is 4 modules, of which that 4 module train has 5 bogies underneath. Each bogie has 2 axles. So
that's correct.
Am I correct in saying then that?
Yeah, no, that is correct.
One axle.
Each single car LRV, and you're right. What our customers see is they see a double train, 2 cars that are out on the line, but each single train has 5 bogies attached to it, and of the 5 bogies, there's 2 axles, and then obviously on every axle there's 2 wheels. And what occurred was on the last axle on the lead train, so the first train of the 2, the last axle had come off the rails, and so 2 wheels were off the track. And then through the subsequent investigation, we were able to determine that it was 1 wheel that had dislodged or had come off that axle. One wheel out of 20 wheels, 1 axle out of 10 on a single car LRV. Yeah, no, I appreciate when we're talking to the public and media, I try to put things in very simplistic terms. And I'm not an engineer or a vehicle engineer by any means. So we try to put it in very simplistic terms because really the main thing that our customers want to know is, how does it impact my day-to-day commute? How is it impacting me? What are you doing in the meantime? And how do you ensure my safety, right? So we focus on that. Then, we try to follow up, with council and members of the public with more detail as the information becomes known. But we try to keep it in very simple terms to try to explain it. So yeah, it was 1 axle, 2 wheels, and then actually only, and then when you go one step further, as we learned more and as the investigation went on, it was 1 wheel that had, detached from that axle. So you got 1 axle, 2 wheels. We're talking about the 1 wheel had detached, and that was what caused the the derailment, the minor derailment.
The line was shut down as to be able to remove the train and to further investigate and make sure there wasn't any issue with a wider percentage of the fleet. So in the meantime, the task was to recover the vehicle and bring it back to the MSF. So could you talk a little bit about how that was accomplished? I understand a rail dolly was used. So could you sort of explain or illustrate how that took place?
So, a dolly, the rail dolly, is similar to what if you work in auto body shops and you want to move cars around, you put it on a dolly. The wheels sit on the dolly, and then the dolly is what you move around. Rail dolly is very similar. It's just designed to operate on a set of tracks. And the challenge here was, so we needed the dolly. Dollies are typically used in rail when you have a seized axle, so the wheels won't move. You want to be able to get the train back. You put it on a dolly that's got wheels that will, so the wheels of the train can sit on it, and then the wheels of the dolly would allow you to move that train back. So, but in the case here, we had one wheel that was detached from the axle. So the question is, how can you support that one side of that axle on the dolly to be able to get it back to the line, so get back to maintenance and storage facility? So, RTM had to, secure the dolly. They have them, and then they had to, engineer a solution, that would allow the support of the train of that one axle when you were missing a wheel. And so that took a bit of time to do that, to make sure it was safe. The last thing you want to do is you want to do any other damage to the track, or any of the crossovers that it had to go through to get back to the maintenance storage facility. So it took a lot of time and effort. They designed it, and they tested it in their maintenance and storage facility before they brought it out to the main line. Then we tested it one night. We moved it to the train about 100 feet, make sure everything worked, and then the plan was come back the next day and get it back to the yard, do that full move. We were able to do that the next day. It did take a full day, and there were some challenges getting it back to the maintenance storage facility. We had at 2 points the wheels shifted off the dolly, and we had to stop and reset. And it was largely when you go around curves, the wheels tend to try to climb a little bit. So we had two locations where they had to reorient the train back on this dolly. But we did get it back to the maintenance and storage facility, but it did take a good portion of almost an entire day to get it back.
Now, once the train was back, the next step was to investigate the issue, and it was determined very loosely that the axle bearing, that there was fractions of a millimeter of play in it. So can you explain a little bit about what that means, or just explain that a little bit?
Sure, and I need to throw the one caveat out there too, as well, is that I know that everyone's been looking for detailed information right from the beginning, and we're trying to provide it, but the investigation is ongoing, and as they uncover more information, some of the earlier findings may change, right? So we do know, though, that it's the axle bearing assembly within the wheel, the hub, that had an issue. And what they believe happened is there's a fairly large nut within that holds everything together real tight, like it's compressed shut, and it holds everything tightly together. And what they found was there was fractions of a millimeter of play in this nut that's supposed to be compressed down and tight, which they believe resulted in some play in the bearings, some overheating, and then ultimately resulted in that issue where the wheel detached from the axle. That's 100% we know that it's the axle bearing assembly, but what actually caused that axle bearing assembly to fail? That's the ongoing part of the root cause analysis and the investigation. And there's a couple probable causes, but right now it's too early to tell what actually happened in that. But we all know they're very, very confident that it wasn't that axle bearing assembly. And in RTM and Alstom, they've done the right things. They brought in the original equipment manufacturers. They brought in the right experts, safety professionals. So they're doing that very, very detailed investigation, and it may take some time, but we have a good process that allows us to return to service, to continue to inspect the trains, to make sure they're safe and reliable, as they're doing that root cause investigation.
the reestablishment of the service. So the service resumed the following Saturday morning at 6 a.m. And as it's based on trains being inspected and certified and being sure that they're okay to go out. So can you talk a little bit about how the service was relaunched and how things are moving forward at this point in that sense?
Okay, so yeah, prior to resuming service, we needed confirmation from Alstom and RTM that the trains were safe to go back into service, and that's why we made the initial decision that Sunday night, early Monday morning. Service does not run until we get confirmation that the fleet is safe and we won't have a reoccurrence of this. So what they needed to do is they needed to inspect every wheel, every axle, and what they were looking for was was there any play in that wheel? That was their inspection. And if there was any sort of play, and once again, we're talking fractions of a millimeter, if there was any play in that, they would park that vehicle until such time as they could do more analysis on it or replace the part, replace that axle, that wheel. So that's where we're at right now is that, all the vehicles have gone through their initial inspection. They've had another set of vehicles that they want to look at again. And it's really all about making sure that that they have really good solid data baseline and make some decisions moving forward. All the vehicles now also need to go through, in addition to their normal daily and cyclical inspections, they have to go through another check process where they're checking the tightness of that bearing, checking the tightness of that wheel, and they're doing that at a regular frequency, and that's how we're able to resume service. And that's what they're focused on is while they're doing the root cause analysis. So we were able to return to service the following Saturday, and we were able to increase trains throughout the weekend. We actually ended up Sunday, we were running our normal Sunday service with 11 two-car trains. Monday, good start too as well. Today, because they want to do some additional inspections on some trains, we dropped down our frequency a little bit. We started the early morning at 9 trains. We're right now at 10, and we continue to ramp those up right now. But what we're seeing, what our customers would experience is about a 5 to 6 minute frequency of trains, which during COVID times is more than meets the ridership demands and gives ample opportunity for people to physically distance. The point just I'm really trying to make is we're doing this as quickly as possible. We want to get to the root cause and know the final solution, but at the same time we're going to do it right. We're going to cross all our T's, dot all our I's, double check things, and we will be bringing a detailed report to the Transit Commission in September. I know they're going to want to know answers, and we intend to give that. But at this time, it's just very early, and the information is subject to change. It's like I said in some of the interviews earlier on. We had 8. They said 8 single vehicles they wanted to do some more analysis on or replace some parts. Yeah, that was accurate on Sunday. That number through their analysis may drop or may increase. So what I said was factually accurate at the time, but it could change. And I just would like people to try to understand that the investigation may uncover things that may change some things that earlier get put forward as fact. But at the end of the day, though, we have all the right people to make sure that the service goes in safely, and I don't think our customers have anything to worry in that regard. I've been out multiple times with my family since then, and I don't think twice about it. And I hope our customers are the same.
Troy Charter, thank you again for speaking to us about the O-Train service, and thank you very much for your time.
Anytime. Thank you very much for having me.